Hey, hi class 3. Hope you're all keeping well and safe. So today we're going to be looking at another history lesson for this week. But firstly, we're just going to do a quick recap of what we learned about the Minoan civilization. So we knew that they were found by Arthur Evans, who was a famous archaeologist for his time, and he found this civilization in the year 1900. And moving on from that, we know that the Minoans existed from the year 3000 BCE. So before Common Era, to approximately 1100 BCE as well. The reason why I say approximately is where we're not too sure, as there's not much records to kind of provide us with that evidence. We also know that the Minoans were quite a seafaring people. So the first civilization that was settled in Europe, who often traded the likes of bronze and copper. And of course, we believe that the Minoans also declined due to a volcanic eruption that happened thousands of years ago that left them in quite a weakened state. And then, of course, pirates had also come along and begun to raid their islands, including the island of modern-day Crete, which they never really recovered from either. So today we're going to be looking at the Trojan War. So this is something that I really enjoyed as a child. I really hope you enjoy this story too. So today we're going to be looking at the actual story of the Trojan War itself, and then next week we'll be looking at if we think this is fact or fiction. So I really hope you enjoy this week's. So let's make a start on the Trojan War. So what was the Trojan War? So the Trojan War was a famous story told in the Iliad, which was a poem written by Homer, a famous Greek writer. So just an important fact for you all. In ancient Greece, they didn't call them stories. They referred to them as poems. So this particular poem was written around 702 BCE, so long after the war took place, and making it one of the first ever stories told in Europe. It's not really clear why the story took so long to be written, but it's said that the Greeks preferred to tell their stories than write them. So where have we come across that before? So have a pause and think about that. So well done. Yes, we have been looking at Christoph's story. And again, with Christoph, his family and his own traditions meant that he preferred to tell stories rather than write them. So a similarity there between the Rwandans and the Greeks. So the story begins with Troy, and it's a story that begins in the city of Troy itself, so in modern-day Turkey. The story tells us of three goddesses that had a disagreement, and they asked Paris, the prince of Troy, to try and settle this. So the three goddesses then offered Paris a bribe, so that kind of reward for kind of going with their decision. So one offered him an empire, and that he would be heroic in the war. And Aphrodite, the goddess of love, offered him the most beautiful woman in the world. That woman was Helen, the wife of King Menelaus of Sparta. Apologies, I've just realized as well. So one offered him an empire. One told him that he would be heroic in war. So those were the two that were separate. Sorry if I put that together. So let's move on to the next slide. So Paris agreed to go with Aphrodite's choice. And so he ensured that Helen fell in love with Paris and that they both ran away together. So King Menelaus himself, so the lord of Sparta, the king of Sparta at this point in time, was absolutely furious with this, that his wife had left him, to go to a rival prince of Troy at the time. So led by his brother Agamemnon. So Agamemnon was the commander of the Greek army, the whole Greek army at this point, to go and bring Helen back to Sparta. And it's said that the Greeks had also sailed with a fleet of 1,000 ships. So just to give us all a bit more context as well, so we believe the Trojan War may have took place between 1260 BCE, so before Common Era, right up to about 1180 BCE. Again, The reason why we say approximately as historians is because we don't have the exact dates. We're not sure on the recordings themselves, and of course we'll look at this next week to see if this actually was a war that was a real war that took place. So again, let's focus our eyes on the map here. So very quickly, you may see Sparta just on the southern part of the map there. So tell me, have a pause, think about which facts you've remembered from Sparta when watching this video. And if you look here, we also have Athens, another city-state. And again, I'm sure you've got some facts that you would like to think about again for that one. And right bang in the middle of the two, you might just see the one that says Corinth. And that is one of the city-states that we were looking at for art last week with pottery, where they had created the black figure pottery for that particular time period. And of course, let's put our eyes just on that island of Crete just below there. And of course, that is where the Minoan civilization had settled first. So all the arrows I'm pointing at the moment is the whole of Greece joining up with Sparta and going to war to fight Troy. So just to put that into context, think about the 1,000 ships. Imagine how terrifying that would be to look at. So closest that I can show you to that would be this slide. So imagine being a Trojan soldier or a Trojan prince at this time and seeing a fleet of 1,000 ships coming towards your land to destroy your city. So that in itself is quite a terrifying thing to see. But that being said, the Greeks didn't have it all their way. The Trojans were a very formidable force to be reckoned with. So they had a very strong army, and they also had these massive city wars. So again, we can see all these people at the front, and these are all the Trojan soldiers. So the Trojans had quite a massive army to hold off the Greeks. And of course, the Greeks would really struggle to even try to get past these city walls as well. And you can see that wooden part in the middle, just over there. And that is the actual city gate. And yeah, the Greeks very much struggled to get past the army, even to get to the gate itself. And as a result of that, and as a result of the two armies clashing, it actually took 10 years for the war to come to an end. So just to put it into perspective, the Second World War only took 5 years. So to consider a war back then that took 10 years to finish, that must have taken a long time, to feed the troops, to supply the troops, and that's a long time away from their families and their children as well. So many Greek and Trojan heroes died in this battle. So this included Hector. So you're seeing the soldier in the blue there. That is Hector, the greatest warrior that belonged to the Trojan army. Was a Trojan prince and was also the heir to the throne. So for those of you who aren't aware, the heir to the throne means the next person in line to take over from the king or queen. And of course, we also have Achilles, who also passed away in the war, or died in the war, who's on our left-hand side here. So in this particular picture, this is a famous part of the Iliad where Achilles and Hector fought one-on-one, and Achilles came out on top and killed Hector in that battle. And then, of course, even Paris himself had perished in the war. Paris did have one parting shot, quite literally. He had shot Achilles through his ankle. Those of you may be aware of the myth of Achilles, where he was dipped into a pool of immortality, except for his ankle, where that was his vulnerability. So for those of you who are quite interested in that myth, it's quite interesting to see how Achilles was defeated that way. And of course, there's a part of our body that you might remember called the Achilles heel, and that again goes to show where the Greek legacy carries on for us today. So moving on, we know that you've probably come across this before. So this is the Trojan horse. So we need to figure out who actually came on top in this battle. So it was at the most famous battle of the Trojan War. Began when the Greeks came up with quite a clever and cunning plan. So the Greeks decided to leave a particular gift for the Trojans. So this was an idea created by Odysseus. the smartest Greek hero in the Greek army at the time. He's also got his own story by Homer called the Odyssey. So some of you might be aware of that. That it might be something that you'll look at in high school, or maybe if you go to college or university. So Odysseus decided that the Greeks should give the Trojans a large wooden horse. When the Trojans showed up at the Greek beach, they also saw the horse and thought it was a gift, so a sign that the Greeks had given up. And it also meant that they also saw the Greeks sailing away. So they decided to drag this enormous horse into their city. However, hiding inside the horse were a group of Greek soldiers. So after the Trojans had went to sleep, they climbed out of the horse and let the rest of the Greek army into the city. The fighting began, and Troy was actually destroyed. So, knowing that Troy had perished, knowing that Paris and Hector had also died during the Trojan conflict, we know that we know that from his kind of history that one particular Trojan may have survived. So Aeneas, the Trojan prince and hero, second only to Hector in terms of fighting, he decided he had survived with some surviving Trojans and moved to an island called Italy. Well, a land called Italy, because it's not an island, of course. And according to the Roman version of the myth, Aeneas and his followers had founded Rome. So according to the Romans, this was the reason for why they invaded Greece in 146 BCE. So it's quite interesting to see that as a justification. So, of course, Mr. Morris will probably cover that at a later point, where the Romans eventually took over Greece, and that ended the timeline for the ancient Greeks. But I'm going to leave this question for you: does this mean that the Trojans were avenged? So today's task, we know that the Trojan War was full of heroes, so I think it only suits us to make our own kind of hero or god today. So on a piece of paper, I'd like you to draw a table like the one below. Choose what powers or traits that they particularly have. I would also like you to try and give them a name too. So just pop the name right in the middle there. So the male names in ancient Greece often ended with an US or an OS, so such as Perseus or Achilles. And female names often ended with an A or an E, such as Cassandra. So I do have an example for you as well. So this is an example of what I would like you to do for this week's activity. So of course, draw the kind of powers that your hero has, your Greek hero. Pop the name in the middle there as well. Give your hero a nice cool name. What physical attributes they have. What character traits they have. So are they quite stubborn? Are they quite strong-willed? And then their appearance as well. Are they muscly? Muscly? I think that's muscly. And what age are they? Are they quite old? Are they quite young? Are they skinny? Are they quite muscular? So have a think about those things. But I'd like you to also keep this for next week as well, as this will tie in with next week's Trojan activity. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all your ideas with this one, and I really hope that you've enjoyed the story about the Trojan War. So thank you, Class 3. I really hope you enjoy the activity, and I'll speak to you soon.